I wanted to preach a message this morning that was about why you should be a part of a church at all. What's the point? And I also wanted to talk about what it means to really be a part of a church and how we should go about it. But I got to thinking that there's going to be different groups of people that are going to hear a message like this, and it could affect them in different ways. And how do you reach the middle? And I got to thinking about, when I was a high school teacher. Once upon a time, yes, I was a high school teacher. It's an admission. But the truth of the matter is, I used to teach high school marching band and choir and guitar and things like that. I also taught science. Now, go figure out how the music teacher became the science teacher. So I'd teach biology 1 second, and then the next second I'm over here. It was quite an interesting thing. But that's where I was, and I ran into a certain set of students. There's always basically 3 different groups. You have group number 1, they actually want to be there. I mean, when you're in a marching band program, there are kids that are sold out. They love the band. They love the band so much that it drove me crazy as a band director, and I'll tell you why. Because they lived in the band room. I mean, they came there before school. They came there. They didn't have a locker. They used the band room. I mean, no kidding. There's junk all over the place. I had tables set out just for all the junk that they would lay out. They didn't want to use a locker. They lived in the band room. They were there before school. They were there after school. They were there on Friday nights. They were all the time. They were sold out. They were committed. They were taking what skills and talents and abilities that they had as a student musician, and they were pouring it into this program. They were there. And there was a second group, though. They were in the band, but they weren't quite that committed. They were there, and they would show up at Tuesday night rehearsals, but usually that was the group that I was yelling at. You know what I mean? Because that was the group that, they would do the marching, and they, okay, all right, and reset. Okay, instead of the guys that are really committed, when you say reset, they are running back to the other set point. I mean, there's a difference. They were there. Some of them were even good musicians, but they weren't sold out. They weren't passionate about what they were doing. And then there was a third group. And there weren't very many of them, but they were there. And these were the kids I called the I don't care crowd. They didn't care about anything. The only reason they were in the band is because probably their mom had been in the band when she was in high school. Therefore, you will be in the band. And so they were there, but most of us wished they were not there. Because these were the ones that you could not ever turn your back on this group. You turn your back on this group, bad things are going to happen. Okay, this is the group of I don't care group. Now, I was a motivational teacher. I was. I like to rally these groups because I was big into band. When I was a kid, I lived in the band room. That was my second home. I was one of those kids. I was into the music. I was into marching band. I even went on to the drum and bugle corps world, which is basically the professional side of what we do. Traveled all over the country. I was into it. I was big into the band. So I wanted to rally my band to be like that. And I gave plenty of really good speeches. I really got my troops riled up. And here's the thing, is sometimes I could come across as if I'm scolding the people that really wanted to be there. And they didn't appreciate that. I mean, they're sold out. They are there. They are doing stuff. They are plugged in. So I didn't want to yell at them. In fact, I learned I really don't want to yell at anybody, even the I don't care crowd. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to give them good reasons that you want to be here. Why should you be in the sold-out crowd? And I wanted to give them those reasons. And it's the same thing here at this church. There are plenty of people all over our culture that can't give you a good reason to be a church. They'll give you an okay reason. Well, you learn a few things. The kids get something good out of it. It's good for the wife, whatever. They have those kinds of things, but they are not passionate. They are not compelled to be there. They are not sold out. They're not taking their skills, their talents, and their abilities and pouring it into the church. They're not. They're not necessarily bad people, but I wonder if they just don't understand why they should in the first place. It's not so much that they're bad, it's why should I be? And even the I don't care crowd. You may be dragged here because you had no choice, because mom said you're going or death. Okay, so you're going to be here. All right, but maybe you're in that crowd. But I want to give all three of these groups something different today. I want to give you good reasons, not just to go to church, not even to be a part of it, but to be passionately sold out and pouring yourself into a church. And if it's not this church, if you're a visitor, I want you to take this with you wherever you go. Because there are way too many people that don't understand why they should really be plugged into a church. I want you to understand why. I want you to know what that means, and I want you to walk away from this knowing what you need to do. And we need these kinds of answers, guys. We really do, because many people just don't know why they should be sold out. Why should they be involved? And again, they're not bad people, but they just don't know why. Honestly, we have a lot of distractions. Everybody has to deal with things like jobs. Everybody has to deal with things like kids. Everybody has to deal with things like the errands that need to be run. Everybody has the issue of being drop dead exhausted by the time they get to Sunday anyway. Particularly if you're, I've got a number of people that are coming to me, I want to be involved in church, but we live in a completely different society. 50 years ago, 9 to 5 was normal. Nowadays, that could be 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Everything's changed. We're in a 24/7 world now, right? Everything's different. And people, they're tired. So it's not as if they're bad, but why be sold out when you're just exhausted all the time? Why be involved in a church and connected if the church's only reason is to meet family and personal needs, but you're doing okay? You're not perfect. You got this problem and that problem, but it's not the end of the world. It's not like you're falling apart. Church is for those people who are so messed up they can't get things under control. But you're doing okay. So there's no real reason. And that's a common thing. I've talked to many people. I talk to them about church. They find out I'm a pastor. And they'll ask me a few questions here and there, but most of them are scared of me. You know why? They're afraid I'm going to try and get them to come to church. They're right. I will. You give me an opportunity, I'm going to work on you. Okay, because there's a reason that you need to be here, and I want you to understand what it is. And a lot of people think, well, I'm a good person. Things are okay. I don't need it, because they feel like being involved in church, here and there is fine, but being involved in church, well, that's to meet family and personal needs, and we're doing okay. We're good. So there's no real passion for it. Greg Laurie did a poll study, and he found out that 89% of the Christians, or the people that call themselves Christians, people that were polled, believe that the mission of the church is to meet family and personal needs. That's why the church exists. Now, when you have needs, the church should be there for you. No doubt about that. I believe a church should meet family needs and should meet your personal needs. But that's not what the church is about. It's not. Only 11%. That's 1 in 10. That's why this message needs to be preached. Because only 1 in 10 people believed that the purpose of the church was to win the world for Jesus Christ. Only 11%? Roughly 1 in 10? See, Jesus himself said this in Luke chapter 19, verse 10. He said, "For the Son of Man," that is Jesus, "has come to seek and to save that which was lost. That's why Jesus showed up. I mean, we just had all these kids singing about Jesus and the whole, the story of his birth and the angels and all of that stuff. And we're in the Christmas season, so we're thinking about it. But you got to ask yourself, why did Jesus come in the first place? He came to seek and to save that which is lost. That would be you. And you may think to yourself, I'm not lost. Yes, you are. Without Jesus, you are lost. Without Jesus being the king of your life, you are lost. Without Jesus washing away your sins, you are lost. And he is seeking you. You see, the mission of Jesus Christ is to empty hell and fill heaven up. That's what it's all about. But you see, we miss that part. We don't understand that part. See, his whole purpose was not about making your life better. He's not a really, really good motivational speaker. He's not here. He did not come to pump you up so that you would feel better about yourself. That is not why Jesus came to this planet. See, the truth of the matter is, if you are a Christian today, that means you understand why Jesus really came here. See, people don't get this very simple truth. And most Christians, they forget it. They don't get the emphasis of this truth. And I don't care if I say it every Sunday for the rest of my life, I'll say it again. The reason that you need Jesus is that you have offended God. Every one of you, myself included, every one of you have told lies. And God says you shall not lie. Every one of you has had adulterous thoughts in your heart where you have looked at someone and you have had the fantasy in your head. You are guilty of adultery as far as God is concerned. Every one of you have taken something that was not yours. It doesn't matter how small it is, you have done it. You are a thief. Every one of you. And I do include myself. And the truth is, we've offended him. We deserve his wrath. We are separated from him. And Jesus came for the purpose of seeking and saving lost people like you and me. That's his reason. And that's the reason for the church. You see, because Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty that you deserve. And that's what it means to be a Christian. And if you've become a Christian, if you go, I get that, I have called upon God and said, God, have mercy on me. Please apply to my life the blood that Jesus shed on the cross. Come into my life and be my king. If you've made that choice, he didn't do that. He didn't save you. He didn't just do all of that just to make you feel better. He did that so that you could join him and go save others. You got to get that in your head. Jesus could have used angels to tell you, right? Could have used fireworks in the sky. But he chose to use you to help him go seek and save that which is lost. Now think about the power of what I just said. The Son of God gave his life on the cross and then trusted you with his sacrifice. Trusted you to go tell others who have not heard that, who don't get that, who have not yet committed themselves to him being king. He is committed to you and me to keep people from going to hell. That is not a small burden. And when we lose the eternal mission, when we don't understand what he has invited us to do, then we don't get passionate. We don't get sold out. We show up at church. And again, I'm not trying to scold you. I'm trying to give you reasons. If you're already sold out, if you're already passionate, I want to throw some gasoline on your fire. If you're that middle group that's like, well, I'm distracted, I've got this and I've got that, I want to throw some gasoline on your fire. I want to show you that everything else in your life should be second. And if you're in the I don't care crowd, I want to rattle you right between your eyes. I want to grab hold of you and shake you and say, you are going to hell without Jesus. I'm unashamed to say it. I'm unashamed to prove it. Now, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23 says this. It says, let us hold unswervingly. That means we are steady as a rock. Let us do this. You call yourself a Christian, then this is what he wants. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Now, this is a key scripture for why you need to be plugged into a church. People say, well, why? I don't need the church to be a Christian. Well, actually, you're wrong. You are the church. So if you don't need a church, you've got a problem. You are the church. It's not this building. It's not a denomination. If you're a Christian, you are the church. So how can you say you don't need it? And Jesus said, hey, look, the church is the bride of Christ. So if I say, well, I don't need a church, I don't want to be connected, I don't want to be involved, that's like saying, Pastor, I like you, but I can't stand your wife. Okay, it's going to cause a problem between you and me because I really like my wife. And if you don't like her, I don't like you. Okay? I'm just being straight. You know, maybe I'm not that great a Christian, but if you don't like my wife, I'm having a problem with you, okay? Now, here's the thing. It says, let us consider how we may spur one another on. Now, that word spur, it's in King James, they translate that word provoke. And it's paroxysmos, which means a sharp contention, irritation, or sharpening. Now, that doesn't sound very pleasant. And I assure you it's not. Now, I've got a little tree trimming business, and I have to have chainsaws. Now, I was walking to the church the other day, and I'm walking down the road, and here's this little landscaping crew. Now, they obviously are not tree trimmers. They're landscapers. I'm not a landscaper. I don't do, lawns and bushes and things. I do trees. The bigger, the nastier, and the scarier, I'm in it. All right? Now, these guys are trying to do a tree, and they are not trained for trees. And they are sitting there with this little electric saw, and they're going, on this tree that's this big through. And they're down on their knees trying to cut this tree down. And I stopped by and said, let me give you my card before you kill yourself. You know what I mean? They didn't call me. I don't know how they got that tree on the ground without killing themselves and everybody around them, but they're with this little saw. Now, the thing is, I like my saws razor sharp. They have to be because of what I do. I've got to cut through a limb, and I've got to do it fast. And if you're hanging 75 feet up in the air and you got to cut through something, you don't want to be going, okay, you need something that's going to go zoom, and it's done. You want it sharp. How do you get there? You got to sharpen the chain. And I have a chain sharpener at home. And what I do is that little machine comes down, and when it hits the chain, what are you going to get? Sparks and lots of them. Now, I'm telling you, it can be dangerous in a tree if you don't have a sharp saw. You can kill yourself in a tree without a sharp saw. You've got to have it very sharp, and there will be sparks to get it there. But that's what it takes. And that's what he's talking about. Yes, church can be convicting to you. It can be uncomfortable sometimes. You come and listen to me, and I've had people come up to me and going, man, do you got like hidden cameras in my house or something? I mean, whatever you're saying, it's like, that's what happened all week. And they accuse me of being a spy. And I always say to them, look, I work for somebody that knows everything, even what you're thinking. So if it's coming out of my mouth and it's hitting you between the eyes, don't blame me. Okay? It's his problem. Well, it's your problem. But you see, the truth of the matter is, if he's stirring it up, you to change. Listen, Many people want to avoid that. I don't want to go to church because it makes me feel uncomfortable. That's because God's trying to sharpen that. He's trying to scrape that edge off of you and make you a sharp instrument in his hand to be effective in his kingdom. And he doesn't want dull saws because he knows what it takes to get the tree down. Do you understand? So if it's convicting to you, good. If it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, I'm just doing my job. Okay? Because that's what God wants. Remember, this is not my idea. This church is not my idea. It's his idea. The church is his idea. Did you know that? Remember, he could have used angels. He chose to use people, and he called them his church. He said, I'm going to build my church, and hell itself will not prevail against it. That's you. And we've seen it down through the ages. We've seen the church progress into the deepest, darkest, nastiest areas on this planet. Because hell itself will not come against what God is doing. And he wants to sharpen you, and he wants to make you into a powerful instrument that you're going to do great things for God. That's what he wants. That's the purpose. And that is the primary reason that you need to be plugged into a church, is because God wants to do something great through your life. He doesn't just want to make things nicer for you. He wants to take you beyond yourself. He wants to take you beyond your circumstances. He wants to take you beyond what you think you need and take you to a place so extraordinary that they'll write books about you. That's what God wants out of you. That's why you're here. And that's the key. Listen, God's method of reaching the lost, it's through you, through his church. Now, that's not a building. It's not a denomination. It's you, if you're a Christian today. It's a local group of believers. They are obedient. They're growing. And because of that and through that, he is going to reach lost people. That's what he's going to do. And we need to understand what that really means. We need to really get this powerful truth. Listen to me now. The church is not a part of your life, guys. It is your life. Let me say that again. You're not supposed to be a part of a church. You are the church. This is your life. This is the purpose for your existence. This is the reason that God thought you up before Adam was created. Your DNA is no accident. It was planned. And your purpose is to be a part of a local group of believers to go out and be a part of the mission of the living God to seek people who are currently going to hell. That's your job. That's your reason for life. It's the only reason you exist. And if you think that I'm really pushing this too much, take a look at Matthew 28:18 and see what our master had to say about this. This is what Jesus said. This is after the resurrection. He's already died on the cross. He's risen from the dead. And he has this powerful statement to make. He says, all authority has been given to me. All. Now think about the power of that statement. I have died and I have risen from the dead. And because of that, I have all authority. No one can speak against me. What I say is absolute reality. I am king. And all we're going to do now for the next couple thousand years is we're going to mop up the rebellion. But the war is over. I have won. All authority is mine. And we're just going to mop up this little rebellion that's going on this planet. Because the day is going to come where every knee is going to bow and every tongue is going to confess that I am king. He has the right to rule your life because he has all authority. And here is his command. Go, therefore, because this is true, because you belong to me, because I purchased you with my own blood. Go out there and make disciples. Go out and make disciples of all nations. Doesn't matter what color they are. Doesn't matter what language they speak. It doesn't matter where they are. Go make disciples. Baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to observe all the things that I have commanded you. And hey, listen, hold on there. I'm with you. I am with you always. I am with you everywhere you go. I will go before you. I will prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. I will make a straight way for you, even in the darkness. I am with you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the fact that you don't know what to say when you're talking to somebody that's unsaved. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of anything, because all authority has been given to me, and I am your king. Go and make disciples. That's what he's saying. That's pretty powerful stuff. Now, the word disciple in Greek is metheteuo. It's where we get our word mathematics. It implies something. It means a learner, but it implies a learner, somebody who's learning, a student who actually puts it into practice. That's why we get the word mathematics from this. Because mathematics is something you can't look at. You got to do it. Does that make sense? And what he's saying is that go make disciples means go out and make people who are learning to imitate me. That's what I want you to do. Go out and you don't just tell the story. You go out and help people become learners. Become the group of people that is dedicated, sold out, and radical about being Jesus people. Sold out. That's what a disciple is. And then he says, teach them to observe. Observe means to watch over, to guard from loss or injury by keeping the eye upon, tareo in Greek. In other words, you and I, if we're going to be Christians today, it means we must be committed to learning and watching carefully. Learning and watching carefully. Guarding ourselves to be obedient in all that he commands. Not a few things that he commands. All. Right? All that he commands. So our commitment, listen, our commitment to being that kind of a learner, our commitment to being that kind of obedient, that's God's way of seeking and saving lost people. That's the purpose of the church. That's why we have a church. Now listen, a church should meet personal needs. I agree with that. It should meet family needs. No problem with that. But whenever we lose our focus on the real mission, and what is that mission? It's our personal growth and obedience as we go out and reach others for Christ. That's what it is. Now, if we lose sight of that, then we fall into the trap of becoming consumers instead of committed. We become consumers instead of committed. Now listen, there's nothing wrong with being a consumer. I'm a consumer. So are you. This is Christmas. We're going to consume a lot, more than we need. We like to consume. That's not a problem. But the thing is, what is the attitude of a consumer? I mean, when I'm going out and I am buying Christmas gifts, I have a mission, all right, and that's to get in and out of there as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible. Now, my wife's got a different mission. We have a problem with this. It's causing a clash. But my job is to get in, get out, and do it cheap. That's my mission. That's my mission. So when I'm a consumer, I'm not interested in anything but the best price. I'm not really interested in anything but getting the most value I can for the least amount of effort, particularly at this time of year. I have a habit of parking far away from the front entrance. Melissa always, why do you park way over here? So that I can escape. That's why. Well, why don't you park closer? Because I don't want to fight with 400 trillion people in order to get into one little spot. And then when I'm trying to get out, everybody's all parked up and they got their blinkers on. All I want to do is shoot somebody. No, I'm going to be way over there. You know what I mean? I have a different mission. Different mission. See, when you're a consumer, you're looking for the most benefit for the least effort. Now, in contrast to that, somebody who's committed to a mission that is bigger than they are, somebody that is fully sold out to a commitment, they're going to give the most for the cause. They're going to give the most that they can to be effective for the mission because they're sold out to the mission, not to themselves. Now, when you look at that, you go, well, that sounds nice, but I can't get my mind wrapped around it. Okay, think about a guy like this. This is somebody that is committed to a mission that's bigger than he is. And we all honor men like this, don't we? We look at firefighters, and we are amazed by these guys and ladies. They get out there, and they're willing to go into some place that everybody else is trying to get out of. And they will go in. Now listen, these guys are willing to risk their life for some poor soul that's trapped in the flames. And we admire them. We tell stories about them. I got the opportunity to go to one of our guys that goes to church here is a pilot on helicopters with the fire department, and he works for DPS, but they work with the fire department, and they have the helicopters, and they go and they do all this. And we got a chance to go up in the helicopter. It was really cool. We went down to the station. And here's what blew me away. I've never been in a fire station before, so it was kind of cool going through there. Now, here's what I noticed. First of all, everything was perfect. The place was pristine. Everything. Every fold in every coil, everything was perfect. They were checking the engine on that machine every 12 hours to make sure it was perfect. They were ready for everything. But when I went into the main place where they live, I saw plaques and trophies all over the wall. Guys that had given their lives as firefighters. Memorials everywhere. They had one that had every single name and every single face of every firefighter that gave their life in 9/11 in their firehouse. These guys were committed to the mission of saving lives, even at the cost of their own. And I know for a fact they are not doing it for the paycheck. Because you can't be that committed for what they're getting paid. It's a good salary. They get benefits. But man, you got to give your life. You got to be willing to walk into that. To drag somebody out that might already be dead. I mean, these guys are sold out to a mission that is bigger than any benefit that they could get. Now, they get a joy. They get a sense of self-worth in that sacrifice. There's no doubt about that. Because many of the people that they're going to save are going to die without them. They know that this is true. But the truth of the matter is, even that is not enough. They have to be committed to the mission above everything. Or they can't be the hero. They can't. They've got to understand that. And you and I need to get that too. We need to change our thinking about why we show up here on a Sunday morning. We need to really change our thinking because the purpose of this building is to save the lives of people whose lives are currently on fire. Their lives are on fire. Whether it be the addictions that are consuming them, the destruction in their families, or the simple, profound, and awful truth that their heart is beating and every beat is one step closer to hell. And that is forever. That is eternal. That doesn't end. Jesus said, don't be afraid to teach the truth. People are going to hell. The worm doesn't die there. The fire is never quenched. You don't want to go there. And you and I have been entrusted with going out and telling people, here's the way to avoid that. Not only can we help you with not only can Jesus help you with the fires that are in your life currently, but that doesn't have to be your destiny. We've been entrusted with this mission to seek and to save the lost. And that is a mission that is greater than your life. It is greater than your personal needs. It is greater than where you're going to go to school. It is greater than your grades. It is greater than your boyfriend-girlfriend problems. It is greater than all of those things. And the truth of the matter is, when you understand that, when you decide to grab hold of that, when you decide to own that mission for yourself, that's when you're going to find the life that you're looking for. Yeah, Jesus said this. Luke chapter 9, verse 24. He said, look, if you keep trying to keep your life for yourself, you're just going to lose it. And that's what happens. People who are so inward focused, you know what I'm talking about. People that are so narcissistic, you'd think they'd be the happiest people on earth because they're 100% self-centered, right? It's all about me. It's all about my pleasure. Have you ever met a narcissist that's genuinely a happy, fulfilled person? No, they're not. They're miserable because they're buying the lie that if everything is about me, that I'll get filled up. No, you won't. You're just going to lose your life. But if you give up your life for me, now what he's talking about is not necessarily being a martyr. He's talking about being sold out to his mission. That's your mission now. That's your drive in life. So it's not just about showing up at church, is it? It's much deeper than that. And when you get there, then you're going to find true life. It's like that firefighter again. He gets out there, he's sacrificing himself, but he ends up finding a joy and a sense of self-worth that you can't put a price on. You just can't. Military experiences this too many times, right? Guys out there that sacrifice themselves get a shiny medal on their chest, but they don't care about the medal. They know what they gave, and they know why they gave it. Does that make sense? And it gives them a sense. It gives them a depth. They find a life they never knew they had because of that sacrifice. And that's the key. Listen, you want real joy in your life? Because you don't have it. You're trying to find it, but you're not getting there. You want real joy? Then you got to learn to invest your life in God's mission. And his mission is to seek and to save lost people. So the first thing you got to do is get found. So if you're unsaved today, you need to get saved. That's step one. But once you get there, Christian, if you're a Christian, your mission needs to be his mission, to seek and to save the lost, and you do that together as a church. You don't do it all by yourself. Firefighters don't work alone. And you do it by growing as a disciple and going out and making disciples. That's what your mission is. So we've answered the question, what's the mission of the church? And you are the church. There's your mission. You may be staring at me and going, but I'm X number of years old. So am I. I'm X too. Who cares how old you are? I went on my first major missions trip when I was 18, alone, overseas. You can be sold out. It doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter at all. Now, how should you be part of a church? Well, how is a firefighter a part of a department? It's the same thing. It's the same analogy. Listen to me. A firefighter, I told you, I went to that firehouse. They are relentless in their training. It never ends. They're constantly training. They always have one truck that is ready to go at any moment. The other truck, they're training on. Every day, all day. They're doing some kind of training, some kind of teaching, some kind of whatever, because they know they have to be in 100% the best top condition, because they do not know when they're going to be called upon to be a hero at a moment's notice. They've got to be ready right now, for sure. And they've got to do it 100%. When I went to that firehouse, I didn't see anybody slacking. There was no fires. Nobody was calling them up. I mean, they were going to be sending the helicopter down to get maintenance. I mean, it was on a low. It was early in the morning. They weren't expecting anything. But they were busy running around like ants, doing everything the way they always did because they know they have to be ready at any second, at any moment. See, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says it like this. It says, whatever you do. Now, he's talking about the church. He's talking about you. He's talking about you living the Christian life. And when he says whatever you do, he's not talking about your job necessarily. He's talking about whatever you do as a part of this. Whatever you do it heartily. That word heartily means with everything you got. It's 100%. And you do it as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. What is your inheritance? Now, we think the word inheritance means heaven. And in some ways it is. But your inheritance, listen, your inheritance is to stand, listen to me, to stand in front of a group of people who will look you in the eye and say, I didn't go to hell because of you. That's your inheritance. To walk down streets of gold and have people come up and embrace you and say, I am saved because of your faithfulness. That's your inheritance. Your reward. That's what you're offered. To be a part of a mission that is greater than anything you can imagine. You and I are called to give the absolute best of who we are to training as disciples, just like a firefighter trains every day, and to serving the effort of getting out there and saving the lives of people who are currently going to hell. That's our mission. And we are called to be ready and in top condition at any moment because we don't know when we're going to be called upon. The number of times I've been walking down the road and something happens and it's right in front of me and I've got to be ready to deal with it. I've lost track. I pulled so many people out of smashed cars because the accident happened right in front of me. It's like a magnet. My wife says there's something weird about you because it keeps happening right in front of us. All right, but it's because God wants me. And it's not because I'm special. It's because I work for him. And he said, I knew this was going to happen, so I put you right behind him. So you're going to jump out and go get him because you're my firefighter. And so are you. So are you. Some poor little thing comes over to your house, friend of your kids, crying her little eyes out because she found out she's pregnant. And you get an opportunity to sit down across a kitchen table and lead some child to Christ. You have to be ready. You have to be ready. At a moment's notice. You have to train for this. This is why we have classes here, to teach you how to lead somebody to Christ, to teach you how to help somebody with their marriage, to help you with yours. But you see, we need to be stronger in our understanding of what the real mission is in order to be the firefighter that God is calling us to be. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I don't have those skills, Pat. I don't have those abilities. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a preacher. I'm scared to death. I have stage fright in front of my kid. Okay? I mean, I can't even stand in the kitchen and read to him. I'm shaking. And you want me to go preach the gospel on a street corner? Not necessarily. He did say go and make disciples. He didn't say how. So let's talk about that for a minute. James chapter 5, verse 19. Now, this is important. This kind of gets a little deeper into what this mission is and how to do it now. It says, my brothers, if one of you should wander from the truth and someone should bring him back, remember this. Whoever turns a sinner from the error of his way will save him from death and cover over a multitude of sins. Now, you're looking at this and going, why did I pull this up? How does this fit? Because there's two things in here we need to see. It says, if any one of you should wander away from the truth. So can you as a Christian wander away from the truth? Say yes. And it says, and if someone should bring him back, so can you as a Christian help somebody who is a Christian who's wandered away from the truth come back to it? Say yes. So you can be a part of this. whether you're standing on a street corner or not, because there's plenty of Christians that wander away from the truth. I've wandered away from the truth. If you're honest, so have you. And somebody's pulled you back. Good friend, a husband, a wife, a pastor. And he says, and remember this, whoever turns a sinner from the error of his way. Now, wait a minute. You got wander from the truth and error of his ways. It's two different things. And you got to ask yourself, why the difference? Because here's what he's trying to say. He's going, look, the difference is this. A Christian can wander away from the truth. But a person who never has made Jesus the Lord and King of their life can't wander away from the truth because they never had it in the first place. No, they're in the error of their ways. They're in a different place. See, he's trying to contrast two things. Now, listen carefully here, because this is where I'm going to get a little personal on some of the churches that are in our town. And I don't mean to be criticizing these other churches. I'm just trying to point out the truth. You see, there's a movement going on right now. I've read books on this movement that the way to reach the world is to soften our message down. That's the new movement, though, Jim. That's what's going on right now, is we don't need to be fanatics, do we? We don't need to be out. You get out there on those street corners, boy, you're just annoying. You're one of those weirdos. You put these fire and brimstone type messages out there on the internet. What's the matter with you? You're going to offend people. That's not the way to reach people. The way to reach people is to change our churches into community centers. There's a book out there right now. Here's how you do it. You want to reach people for Jesus? You make it into a community center, and everybody in the community is blessed by your efforts. Sounds pretty, doesn't it? But I've seen some of these community centers. I've seen them allow the worship of false gods in their building because it's a community center. Oh, yes. I've seen churches rent out their facility to Muslims, even Hindus. And I'm going, hold on a minute. You just took holy ground in your effort to be community relations and allowed them the worship of gods that are a lie, that are sending people to hell. How is this a good thing? You know, I've got some issues with that. I've got some very serious issues with that, and so does God. Does he tolerate the worship of false gods? Say no. Is he so angry at idolatry that he's willing to destroy nations over it? Say yes. So will we tolerate it in our house? Say no. So community center, come on. Because you see, the attitude is the way to win people is by being nice. If we're nice people, we don't offend anybody. We don't emphasize those hard things, you know. We're charitable. We're into going out and we'll feed the homeless, but we won't tell them anything. We'll just feed them. Right? It's like patting somebody on the head and saying, be warm, be clothed, have a nice day, go to hell. Well, that's what you're doing, isn't it? I mean, seriously. If I'm in the community center, come on in with your karate club, pat you guys on the head, you guys go to hell. You think I'm swearing? No, I'm not. That's what you're doing. If you refuse to tell people about Jesus, you're saying, go to hell, I don't care. Ouch! That should make, remember the spark thing? That should do it. But you see, we've got another problem. We've got other people out there that they're so salvation, salvation, salvation all the time that they don't teach people how to be obedient to following Jesus, do they? And so you end up with people that, you know, they're a mile wide and an inch deep. They don't have any depth. They don't go deep in the Word, you see. And the problem is that's why they wander away from the faith. It's because they don't have any strength. They don't know. You got to confront both attitudes. It's not either or. Either we're all about outreach or we're all about inreach. It's not either or, it's both and we need to find the balance between the two, and we need to understand that our decision to be wholehearted, passionate, sold out, aggressive about being Christians and about going and bringing others in to become Christians too. That attitude, that decision, that's obedience to go and make disciples, isn't it? That's our mission. That's our purpose. That's why we exist. But there are too many people that are not wholehearted. And I'm not trying to scold you guys. No. I'm trying to get you in the center of the band. I really am. I'm trying to get you to see that if you're sold out, we can put a show on the field that's going to blow everybody out of the stands. I'm telling you. It's going to be something awesome. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But the problem is you feel that you can't tell other people about Jesus. You don't know how. You don't have much interaction with people that are unsaved. All your friends are Christians. You know what I mean? You or worse, you feel like you're such a royal mess that how in the world, I don't have any right to say anything to anybody because I'm a disaster. Well, maybe you are. But I look at this verse, James 5:20, and it says, remember this, whoever. It doesn't say, remember this, qualified, trained pastors. Good Christians. Nope. It says, whoever. So you can walk up to somebody and go, I'm a disaster, but I love Jesus. Want to come to church? I'm a disaster. I'm a mess. Somebody comes up to you and says, you're a Christian, and you're this, and this. And you go, praise God, he's working on me. Hallelujah. Why don't you come out to church and see how he can work on you too? You don't have to be qualified, just willing. You don't have to be worthy. You just have to be, say it with me, willing. Say it again, willing. That's all you got to do because it says whoever. And, we think, I don't know enough about the Bible to tell anybody about Jesus. Okay, inviting somebody to church does not require much Bible knowledge. It just requires a bribe. You come to church, I'll buy you lunch. Simple. Not hard. And you think to yourself, I don't have the skills to answer these questions. I've got my own problems. Listen, remember that firefighter? How many of you know he doesn't get to the burning building by himself? He doesn't get there by himself, does he? He has a network of supporters that get him there. And without those supporters, he isn't going to get there. There's dispatchers to tell him where to go. There's a mechanic to make sure that the vehicle he gets into actually works. There are cooks to feed him so that he has the energy to walk into a building carrying 100 pounds on his back. He understands that he needs the accountant to make sure that things get paid for. He has to have the drivers. Without them, he doesn't get to the fire. You see, those people on the support team are every bit as much a hero as the guy standing in the flames. Every bit. And it's a fact that we need to understand that so we don't lose heart. Listen, not all of you are going to be out on a street corner. I'll be there. That's just like feeding me candy. But maybe that's not you. Maybe, I was watching this Facebook clip somebody sent me about some poor guy who's wanted to singing on X Factor. And he comes out like this. I mean, he couldn't even hardly hold the microphone. He's so scared. And tears. He was terrified. Maybe that's you. You want me to tell somebody about Jesus? You go throw up 4 times and go, okay, I'm ready. No, look. If that's you, maybe your skills are something we need behind the scenes. And trust me, we desperately need it. This church needs people to go invite others to church. This church needs people to do our landscaping so that when unsaved people drive by, they don't go, whoa, man, that looks like the ghetto. No, they're not turned off, they're turned on. They go, wow, they care about their building. What's going on there? They care so much that every blade of grass is fixed. No, we need that. We have people that come in here on a Friday and spend 5-6 hours cleaning everything. Why? So that if somebody who comes in here who doesn't yet know Jesus is not turned off by how dirty our floor is. No, we need a lot of support staff just as much. Just as much. And you need to see that being a member of the team is just as vital to saving people from the flames of hell as what I do. I can't do this without that support team. Look at those guys back there. I mean, they got me microphoned and videoed, and you can't live without them. They're out there in the dark. Now, you see, the thing is, each member of the team, now, every member of the team's got to give his best, right? I mean, think about it. If you've got a dispatcher that's lazy, firefighter's going to the wrong address. That's not going to help. If you've got a mechanic that doesn't really care and your vehicle breaks down before you get there, people are going to die. Every member of the team has to give their best. So if you come up to me and say, Pastor, I've been convicted by this message, I'm going to go out there and start doing that landscaping. I'm going to tell you what, I expect the best out of you. And if you think that I'm being harsh, no, that's not my expectation. It's his. You work here, you work for him, not for me. Are you with me? You give your best. If you volunteer here, you give your best. That's what is expected out of you. We need people to make phone calls. We need people to send out letters. We've got a lady now that comes in every day. She sends out letters, handwritten, to all of you new visitors. You probably got them if you were new. We need that. Careful attention to detail because we've got to work together. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 20 says this, as it is, there are many parts, but there's one body. Now, you are the body of Christ, and each of you is a part of it. Now, listen, one last point, and I'll be done. Let you go. Quit chewing on you, making you feel guilty. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm trying to throw some gasoline on your fire. Listen, a really good firefighter understands that mission, but he has to choose to be passionate about it. And he has to choose it when he's been 48 hours on shift and he hasn't had one break. And his eyes are bloodshot because he hasn't slept. You have to choose to be passionate, particularly when it isn't easy. There have been many days as the pastor of this church where I've had my own personal problems and have somebody else come in and pound on my door when I wanted to go home. And my master said, not yet. This fire needs to be put out, and you're on duty. You're on duty. You see, any firefighter can simply decide, I'm just in it for the paycheck, man. I'm in it for the benefits. I'm in it for the retirement. I'm in it for the prestige if I wear this uniform. But I'm not fully committed. The other guys go in first, and I hang back. Now, a firefighter like that, now maybe that person's not really a bad person. Maybe they just haven't really thought it through about the power of this mission and why they should be a part of it. Does that make sense? Maybe they're not a bad person. I'm not trying to throw guilt on you. Maybe you haven't been totally sold out and plugged into a church. But maybe you just didn't understand that you're a part of a mission to empty hell. People are going to hell. They're dying. They are dying because they don't have Jesus as the king of their life. And they're going to eternally suffer torment. And you have in your hand, in your heart, in your actions, the answer to save them. And your master has called upon you to go and make disciples. And the first way you go and make a disciple is by being one. See, any Christian can decide, I'll just go to church occasionally. I'm in it for the benefit. I get benefits here. I've got fellowship and friends and all of this sort of thing. And, they're not fully sold out to really growing and really making a difference in their personal lives. They're not passionate about reaching others. You know what? It's just a choice. That firefighter's got to choose to be passionate even when he's drop dead tired. And you've got to choose to be passionate about being a part of what God has called you to be, regardless of your age, regardless of how you feel. I know a person who has dedicated themselves to service, and they're dying. They did not take the opportunity to sit back and say, hey, I'm checking out of here in 6 months. I've done my bit. No, I'm inspired. Because this is a person who said, to my last breath, to the end, passionate, committed, a part of this, to the end. That's what your master is calling you to do, and that is the last key. You got to see the part that you play in the mission of this church and others like it. But you and I got to decide to be passionate about it. And again, you got lots of reasons not to be. Tons of them. I used to teach high school, and one of the things is I'd be sitting and talking to my kids. They're in 9th grade, 10th grade, and they're saying to me, I'm just a kid. And I said, so was Daniel when he stood up to a king. I'm just a kid. So was Mary when an angel came and said, I know you're only 15 years old, but you are going to be the mother of the Son of God. No matter how old you are, you can be sold out. It doesn't matter if you've got 4 months left to live or 40 years. You can. You just have to decide. That's all you got to do. Let's pray.